The Israeli military has launched its largest military operation in over 20 years in the West Bank area of the Jordan River. It sounds quite sensational, with hundreds of Israeli soldiers involved, and they are definitely not playing around. According to reports, Israel claims they are targeting Palestinian militants, but this operation seems to be quite overwhelming. They are launching attacks from the air and ground simultaneously, even utilizing drones. It's like they're playing a video game. They deserve the Best Special Effects Award for this. The Israeli military has carried out a series of deadly strikes, claiming to be targeting Palestinian militants. It sounds like a game of hide and seek, except they are not hiding, but blowing things up. This operation has been going on for 2 full days, with casualties increasing. It seems like anyone engaging in activities there needs to get insurance. I just read a report that the Jenin area and refugee camps in the West Bank have become targets of the Israeli operation. Speaking of refugee camps, I heard that around 18,000 Palestinians live there, but in this operation, approximately 3,000 people have been forced to leave. It must be terrifying for the Palestinian people. 3,000 of them have already left the refugee camp. This operation has definitely scared them enough. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu also stated in a press release that they have entered the terrorists' hideouts, destroyed command centers, and seized a large amount of weapons. Mr. Netanyahu, please don't get too carried away. This is not a game of Call of Duty. Of course, this war has also sparked anger and discontent among the Palestinians. The Palestinian Ministry of Foreign Affairs condemns this as an open war against the people of Jenin. Well, I have to say, if this is an open war, what would a private war look like? However, according to the latest news, Palestine has announced the cessation of all contacts and meetings with the Israeli side. Does this mean they're going to unfriend Israel on Facebook? To be honest, I doubt this decision would be a blow to Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, as he's already used to collecting friends on social media. In any case, this conflict is truly unpredictable. Every time, it's like both countries are playing with a balloon, and it pops with the slightest pressure. Hopefully, both sides can calm down, sit down and talk things through, instead of playing hide and seek like children. But if they really want to play, I suggest they create a dedicated page on Facebook called Israeli-Palestinian Conflict Game, where people can vote to decide the next move. At least that way, we can all get through this war with laughter. The Israeli military's grand maneuvers, the unfortunate plight of the Palestinian people, and the tense relationship between the two countries, it all feels like a drama, except it's a tragic one without any jokes. Hopefully, both sides can quickly resolve the dispute and bring us a peaceful resolution. Meanwhile, the world's richest individuals, Musk and Zuckerberg, are arguing about the venue for their UFC match, transitioning from the Octagon in Las Vegas to the ancient Roman Colosseum. I'm sure those ancient Roman gladiators must be laughing in their graves. They probably never imagined that their arena would be taken over by two computer geeks 2,000 years later. Now, imagine Musk and Zuckerberg wearing gladiator armor, wielding calculators, and battling it out in the Colosseum. I think this could be the most expensive gladiator match in the world, burning billions of dollars in a single event. Speaking of Zuckerberg, I can't help but mention the satellite he once tried to launch. You know, just when he was full of hope and ready to send his satellite into space, Musk's SpaceX blew it up. Poor Zuckerberg, his starry dreams were shattered by Musk. I guess at that moment, his heart must have been crushed. Since then, their relationship has been tense. So, is this their personal feud or their business strategy? Or maybe they're just trying to entertain us ordinary folks and distract us from the fact that we can't afford a Tesla? On another note, I heard that Zuckerberg's Meta is now developing a new social app called Threads, which looks like a Twitter-like social platform. It's expected to be released on July 6. I'm sure they're hoping to knock Musk's Twitter down a peg. And how does Musk view this news? He's probably busy mocking Zuckerberg on Twitter while secretly watching the demo video of Threads, right? Musk's colleagues might say, "Boss, this Threads thing looks interesting." Musk would wave them off and say, "Hold on, let me take down Zuckerberg first, then we'll talk." If it came down to a fight, I bet Zuckerberg would win. After all, he has won medals in Brazilian jiu-jitsu tournaments. Musk might need to do more abdominal exercises, or else if Zuckerberg kicks him, his Tesla abs might meet their maker. But seriously, two tech titans battling it out in a Roman arena, throwing punches and kicks? Even in my wildest dreams, I couldn't imagine that. But let me tell you, this is the tech world, where anything is possible. Maybe next time, they'll have a zero-gravity dance party on a space station. What would you say to that? The US-Israel relationship has long been touted as the most unique bilateral relationship, but in reality, it's the strangest relationship in the world. As we've witnessed in the past few weeks, from cynicism to surrealism, this strangeness takes on different forms. In contrast to the condemnation from the Arab world and the international community, the U.S. stands in support of Israel. The White House spokesperson stated on the 3rd that the U.S. is closely monitoring the situation in the West Bank. The U.S. ambassador to Russia was granted permission on Monday to visit imprisoned Wall Street Journal journalist Evan Gershkovich. This is the second time the U.S. ambassador has visited Gershkovich since his detention in March of this year. In the weeks prior, the U.S. had made multiple requests to meet with Gershkovich. A group of economists from the Federal Reserve sent a disturbing message to the market. The period of keeping U.S. interest rates above 5% may last much longer than investors expected, possibly until 2026. The research found that, in the medium term, there is no evidence to suggest that the pandemic and the Russia-Ukraine conflict have brought an end to the era of low inflation and low interest rates in the West, which is not comforting news. U.S. Treasury Secretary Yellen, pictured, stated that even with a slowdown in growth, inflation can be eased without a decline in employment. Our economy has proven to be more resilient than many people thought, and I still believe there are ways to reduce inflation while keeping the labor market healthy. On Sunday, July 2, 3 retail facilities in the U.S. Capitol were hit by explosions within a 15-minute interval. The police have offered a reward for information leading to the arrest of the perpetrators, with a bounty of $20,000. U.S. stock market trading hours were shortened on Monday, with a slight increase in closing prices as investors prepare for the second half of 2023 after the market rebound earlier this year. The S&P 500 index rose 0.1%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average increased by about 10 points, with a gain of less than 0.1%. The Nasdaq rose 0.2%. A spokesperson for Open Society Foundations, a nonprofit organization under the leadership of George Soros with a $25 billion fund, announced that the foundation will be reducing its workforce by approximately 40% and restructuring various executive positions. The principle of equality, where everyone is born equal, is the foundation of individual rights and legal fairness in the United States. However, the rapidly growing wealth gap has led to the rise of social justice movements. Recent rulings by the U.S. Supreme Court have sparked significant reactions, with liberals seeing it as a major setback for social progress over the past half-century, while conservatives believe it is a correction of mainstream American values. President Biden's excessive catering to the extreme left within the Democratic Party has exacerbated the general societal divisions that have been present since former President Trump's time in office. Lawsuits challenging university admissions discrimination and Supreme Court rulings reflect the robust corrective capacity of the American system. The political backlash of mainstream society returning to traditional values indicates a decline in the current influence of progressivism in the U.S. In an article published by James Risen on the American website The Intercept, he pointed out that Yevgeny Prigozhin, the leader of the Russian Wagner Group, is skilled in lying and fabricating information, but his most prominent characteristic displayed in the failed uprising last week was sincerity. One of the most common forms of his resistance against the current regime was speaking the truth. Ukrainian authorities stated that their forces successfully recaptured 37 square kilometers of territory from the Russian military last week. Transport operators in France say that the recent riots in France have caused losses of approximately €20 million, around 29.5 million Singapore dollars, to the Paris public transportation system. The Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, Rafael Grossi, began a 4-day visit to Japan on Tuesday, July 4. He will meet with Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and also release the final safety review report on the disposal of Fukushima's nuclear water. Turkish President Erdogan made it clear that Turkey will never agree to Sweden joining NATO as long as Ankara perceives Sweden as harboring organizations it considers terrorists. The UK experienced its hottest weather ever in June, and the UK Met Office warned that human-induced climate change is making heatwaves more frequent. In protest against the labor policies of the government of South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol in opposition to Japan's discharge of nuclear wastewater into the ocean, labor unions in South Korea have launched a 2-week general strike starting from Monday, July 3 road. In response, the South Korean government has called an emergency meeting and stated that it will take strict action against illegal gatherings. The World Bank has pointed out that Indonesia's economy is rebounding strongly in the post-pandemic environment, putting Indonesia back in the upper middle-income country category. Russian Deputy Prime Minister Novak announced that Russia will reduce daily oil production by 500,000 barrels starting in August. Analysts suggest that this is another move by Moscow to boost global oil prices. Starting next month, Twitter's trending tool will be placed behind a paywall and will only be available to verified users. This means that only Twitter Blue users who pay $8 per month will be able to continue using this service. Meta Platforms plans to launch a microblogging app called Threads, which will be released shortly after Twitter CEO Musk announced new restrictions on the number of posts users can view on Twitter. Apple has become the first company in Wall Street history to surpass a market value of $3 trillion. Last Friday, Apple's stock rose by 2.3%, increasing its market value by over $983 billion since the beginning of the year, nearly $500 billion higher than the second-ranked company. Apple has helped the Nasdaq 100 index achieve its best first half of the year, driving a rebound in the overall market for large tech stocks. Saudi Arabia is expected to further extend its additional voluntary production cut plan in the oil market. Tesla will reduce the prices of its high-end car models sold in China, following its decision last month to provide a cash subsidy of 8,000 yuan to some buyers of Model 3 vehicles. According to Tesla's official platform, the prices of Model S and Model X will be reduced by 35,000 yuan to 45,000 yuan. Hungary's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Szijjártó, stated that the country will soon welcome investments from 2 additional Chinese battery manufacturers, which are among the top 10 in China's battery manufacturing industry. These investments are separate from the recently announced plans by CATL and BYD. Foxconn is set to invest $2 billion in 2 projects in Vietnam's Quang Ninh province. Foxconn Technology Group will invest approximately $246 million in 2 projects in Quang Ninh province, northern Vietnam. According to an announcement on the official news website of Quang Ninh province, the 2 projects, FECV Foxconn Quang Ninh and FMMV Foxconn Quang Ninh, have obtained investment permits. The construction of the FECV factory is expected to cost around $200.2 million. Oil and gas companies are reinvesting record profits generated by soaring fossil fuel prices driven by the Ukraine conflict to intensify the search for new reserves, despite repeated calls from the United Nations to phase out hydrocarbons gradually to avoid a climate crisis. Balloon Kobo in Japan is a company that offers balloon funeral services. They put cremated ashes into balloons and release them into the sky. The cost of this sky burial is 240,000 yen, and the number of users has been increasing recently. Recently, The Economist published an article introducing balloon funerals in Japan, stating that it is a phenomenon caused by the lack of available burial space and the desire for unmanned ceremonies. Dalai Lama. No problem living for another 15 years or more. The Taipei Gandan Dongzin Buddhist Study Association, the Tibet Religious Foundation of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and the Tibetan community in Taiwan recently held a celebration in Taipei for the Dalai Lama's 88th birthday. The Dalai Lama, through a video message, expressed that he is in very good health, thanks to the inner peace and happiness he feels. He believes he can live for another 15 or 20 years. The Dalai Lama firmly believes that the dreams he has are an omen that he can live to be 110 years old. In Punjab province, Pakistan, a sport that combines slapping and wrestling is becoming increasingly popular. This new style of slapping kabaddi, also known as thapad kabaddi, requires players to win by attacking and slapping their opponents. Traditionally, it is played during festivals in the central eastern region of Punjab province. It is reported that the International Agency for Research on Cancer, IARC, a subsidiary of the World Health Organization, WHO, classified aspartame as a potentially carcinogenic substance, Group 2B, on the 14th. There is no absolutely good or bad food. If we don't consider the food's utility value and only apply overly strict standards, how many foods in the world would be considered edible? In the first half of the year, global billionaires made a fortune, earning an average of $14 million per day. Elon Musk topped the list. According to Bloomberg data, the wealth of the world's 500 richest people increased by $852 billion in the first half of 2023. Hello everyone, I'm your news anchor, Yali. We provide a one-stop service for global news every day. Feel free to leave comments in the comment section, and we will carefully read and reply to everyone's comments. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. See you in the next episode. Take care everyone.